Yes, boy. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mr. Bad Paramahansa, Parudikacharya, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON BBD Founded Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parudikacharya, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Upadesamrta Ki Jai, Nectar Instruction Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right. On this 14th day of January 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Nectar of Instruction, known as Sri Upadesamrta, by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are going to be beginning text 8 today. Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yojya Tishtan drajeta danuragi jananugami Kalang nayet akhilam it upadesha saram Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yojya Tishtan drajeta danuragi jananugami Kalang nayed akhilamit upadesha saram Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yojya Tishtan drajeta danuragi jananugami Kalang nayeda kilamit upadesha saram Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yojya Tishtan vrajeta dhanuragi jananugami Kalam nayeda kilamit upadesha saram Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yojya Tishtan vrajeta dhanuragi jananugami Kalam nayeda kilamit upadesha saram Not Kari, Chari. Start again. Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yojya Tishtan vrajeta dhanuragi jananugami Kalang nayeda kilamit upadesha saram Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yojya Tishtan vrajeta dhanuragi jananugami Kalang nayeda kilamit upadesha saram. Okay. Tat of Lord Krishna. Nama, the holy name. Rupa, form. Charita Adi, character, pastimes, and so on. Sukirtana, in discussing or chanting nicely. Anusmrityoho, and in remembering. Kramena, gradually. Rasana, the tongue. Manasi, and one's mind. Niyojya, engaging. Tishtan, residing. Vraje, in Vraja. Tat, to Lord Krishna. Anuragi, attached. Jana, persons. Anugami, following. Kalam, time. Nayet, should utilize. Akilam, full. Iti, thus. Upadesha, of advice or instruction. Saram, the essence. Translation. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Purport. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In the Bhagavad Gita 8.6, it is said, Yang yang bhapi smarang bhavam Jajat kalevaram Tang tame vaiti kaunteya Sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Okay, hold on 1 second. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna prasad. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises Tishtan Vraje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Brajabhumi. Vrajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrta Sindhu 12294. Krishnam smaram janam chasya. Let's try it again, everybody. Everyone who has the device. Krishnam smaram janam chasya preshtam nija samihitam tat tat katavatas chaso kuryad vasam vrajesada. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Krishna and always engage in Krishnam smaram janam chasya preshtam, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in the Bhakti-Rasamrta Sindhu 12295, Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tadbhava lipsuna karya Vajalokanusarataha. In the transcendental realm of Vrajadam, one should serve the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna, and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a siddha purush, or a partially perfect soul. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, quality, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always, continuing the quote from Bhaktisiddhanta, in the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of smaranavastha, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi, or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha, or samadhi, has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called sampatti dasha, the perfection of life. Continuing the quote, Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of Scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called raga bhakti, or devotional service. We've actually been given this, but it's not so much emphasized. This stage is called raga bhakti, or devotional service and spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called raga anuga bhakti. Raga anuga bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the shanta ras, when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the dasya ras, one follows in the footsteps of servants like chittaka, pattaka, or raktaka. In the friendly sakya ras, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridama, or Sudama. In the vatsalya ras, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And in the madhurya ras, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends, such as Lalita and her serving maids, Manjuris, like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. What's the first words in it?
No, the very last. In the transcendental realm.
Okay. Hold on a second. Third paragraph from the end. Third paragraph has Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has commented. All right. All right, I see that, yeah.
The very last sentence, what did you say?
The last sentence, well, it begins with this method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a siddha purush, or a spiritually perfect soul. You have that? Okay. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is kind of a natural culmination of the first section of this Upadesamrta. He's giving instructions here on what is known as Raganuga Bhakti, which is a division of sadhana bhakti. You read the Nectar of Devotion, or the original Bhakti-Rasamrta translation we have, and you see that sadhana is broken up into these two parts of Vaidhi and Raganuga. So, one naturally leads to the other. Srila Prabhupada never instructed us, okay, now that you've been doing Vaidhi Bhakti, now we're going to do Raganuga Bhakti a while, and then you can become perfect. But there is a division there in the Bhakti-Rasamrta Sindhu. The Vaidhi Bhakti is, Vaidhi means the instructions of the Shastra. So your motivation is to attain perfection, but the moment-to-moment motivation is to follow the instructions of the Shastra. You're not spontaneously attracted to do the things, although there's a growing attraction for it, but basically you're working under the instructions of the Shastra as given by the Guru and other seniors, and this is you have a strong sense of duty, and this is how you follow. And you can see how this is really what you enter into, especially when you join an ashram. Usually you're not spontaneously attracted to get up at 3:30 in the morning and take a cold shower or whatever, but it's your duty. You're doing it. Everyone else is doing it, and I know it's the right thing to do. It's good for me. It's good. I'll lead to the instruction. And so that's the platform you're on. Then there's at a certain point, this raga anuga develops when your anuga means to follow. So you're following someone who's already sort of spontaneously attached to serving Krishna in a certain mood. You're here now. Here, of course, it describes to live in Vrindavan. Now, elsewhere it describes how one can live in Vrindavan within, because Prabhupada didn't expect after reading this as Text-8, okay, let's pack up, let's all go. Prabhupada says he's supposed to go. I mean, what he says in the translations is also there. But in other places it describes that one can live. Visit Vrindavan periodically, become attached, and hear about Vrindavan, get books about Vrindavan, remember Vrindavan, but then go out and preach and live there internally. So that's another way of living it. You can still follow this instruction, but you can see the whole idea here. It's very much internalized, in the sense that we're full time, 24 hours a day. Nicely chant, live in Vrindavan. It doesn't say go out to New York or anywhere and preach. This is very much an internal thing, and chant and hear. The whole idea is chanting and remembering. Does it say hearing? Sukirtanano smityo. No, it says chanting and hearing. Well, he understood. If you're chanting, you're hearing. Chanting, hearing, and remembering. The first three. What? The holy name. And also descriptions of the form, qualities, and pastimes. These nama, rupa, guna, lila. This is a natural progression. And it is sometimes explained that just by chanting the holy name, the realization of the form will also come in the qualities and the pastimes. The holy name is a complete practice. As well, we've been given an abundance of descriptions of the form. We have the deity form to meditate upon. But the chanting and hearing are meant to pervade all of them. The chanting and hearing, if you're actually hearing and chanting nicely, then you have to be remembering at that time. And so that's the natural progression. And to be absorbed, the definition of a person, think about it, for anyone, material too. Name, form, qualities, pastimes, or activities. That's what defines a person. And so we want to become absorbed in the thought of Krishna, and so we want to become absorbed in his name, and his meditating on the details of his form and the qualities, 64 qualities, and those are just a drop in the ocean. And of course his pastimes. So we've been given an abundance of that. But here it described, 24 hours a day. The idea is that one is to be so absorbed that when you're doing other things, which you have to do the whole body and soul together, and then that remembrance goes on, and if possible, the hearing and chanting goes on. So that's the ideal. And in this way, one should reside in Vrindavan. In this way. By hearing, chanting, remembering. If you're remembering, where is Krishna performing these pastimes? In Vrindavan. But yeah, devotees, sometimes go to live there, if that's your service. But we've been given so much preaching to do. So Prabhupada begins this purport by describing the vehicle of transmigration, which is the mind. In other words, you start out with the basic instruction of Bhagavad Gita, is that whatever you think of at the time of death, that's going to determine your destiny. Once you're convinced that you're a spirit soul, and that you're facing birth, old age, disease, and death, and that you really want to get out of the bonds of birth and death and old age and disease, and the only way to do that is by withdrawing the mind from all of its attractions to this material world. But we find that in the conditioned state, it's full of all attractions. Things that we've experienced in this life, previous life, are planted in there. We get that develops an attachment. Without any method of yoga by which you can drag the mind away from sense gratification and put it in transcendence, and we're helpless. We're controlled by the enemy of mind, and we've been in that situation for millions of births. The only portal possible to get out is through the human form of life, because you have the intelligence. Otherwise, occasionally, like the dog or Shivananda Saint will get a special mercy, but it's not possible to practice systematic sadhana in any other form but human form. So, what to do? This is the essence of all advice. Now, in the previous verse, he described how that's the Vaidhi section. In other words, what is it? Remember the verse? It says. How did it go? I forget. Syat. Krishna nama chaditadis sitapya vidya. He's talking about the same name, form, qualities. It's sweet as sugar candy, but due to the pitta, the bile of ignorance that's due to the hepatitis of material life, it doesn't taste sweet. In other words, there's no natural taste for the name, quality, and form and pastimes of Krishna. But one has to do it anyway. The whole point is you have to take the bitter medicine, of chanting Hare Krishna. But we know that in a short time, it's not so bad, especially when it's accompanied by beautiful music and dancing, and people can get involved. In other words, somehow or other, the music and everything and dancing is almost like it's a candy for the medicine that we need to take. You have to hear the holy name. Okay, so we'll play it very beautifully and rhythmically. Rhythm automatically opens the mind, pacifies the mind, so it's more receptive. And the Nazis knew that. Have you ever seen the old films of their mass rallies that they had? A million people, together, and there's Hitler up in the front, and there's these drums playing, boom, boom, boom. So the message will get in. Anyway, yes, softly in the background. Yeah. Anyway, the somehow or other we have to hear and chant the holy name, and that cleanses the heart so much, and gradually it comes to its natural state where the sweetness of Krishna's name is experienced directly. And it's not something that ends. The point is it's always sweet. Like a material thing, there's a satiation point. There's no satiation. It keeps coming up again and again, the Bhagavatam, as I'm reading through the third canto, I can't be satiated by hearing this wonderful, Pariksit says to Shukadev, and Vidura says to Maitreya, go on chanting, go on chanting. You ever read the CC religious? Go on chanting, hour after hour, chanting the holy name or some verses or something. So that's described in the previous verse. And the present verse is kind of in that state of having a taste for the chanting. Then the whole thing is don't stop. Mold your life in such a way that you're always hearing and chanting, and if it's not possible to hear and chant, the remembrance is there. It has to come to the point of 24 hours a day. So that's what this verse is about. The essence of all advice. It's been leading up to this. The whole thing it's only 11 verses, so it's very tight, the logic. So you have to find a proper guru, and how can we tell? Well, you can't tell right away because you don't know anything, but at least you can watch, you can see. Are they being whipped around by these 6 Vegas? Vatro Vega, Manasakroda Vega. I read a story, I don't want to pollute the atmosphere, it was hair-raising about some guru, I never heard of him in India, who's been in jail already for 10 years. And he was accused of another murder. He was in jail for murder and another murder. And he had all of this accusation of sexual impropriety with a disciple. This guy has millions of followers in India. I forget his name, and I don't want to remember it. But it's such it's so easy to be bewildered. This is right at the beginning of Bhagavatam. We find that verse. Anyone who knows it can chant along. Prayan alpaya shaksabhya kalabasmin yugejana manda sumanda mabhiyo manda bhagya upadrita. This is the first chapter, where the sages at Naimisharanya are saying, for the most part, which was left out, was in there in Prabhupada's translation, it was left out in 72, it's been restored. For the most part, people don't live very long in this Kali Yuga. They're lazy in the matter of self-realization, or it's non-existent, any impetus. Manda. And if they happen to have some desire for it, then they're likely misguided. Sumanda matayo. And so they're always unfortunate and, above all, always disturbed. So we see evidence of this every day. This is such a hair-raising. And we know other names that, people get millions of followers. When you promise them something material, you do a little magic, you have some charisma. So this is the situation we're in. So how are we going to judge? Okay, you can watch. Are they really in control of the urges of the urges to speak, of the mind, of anger? Anger is very common. And hung belly and genitals, If someone is really in control, you can see over time, then they're worthy to make disciples all over the world. So then, before you even begin, there's all of these warnings. So right away, you can see this is a very internal document. Someone wants to be a devotee. And here are the roadblocks, here are the pitfalls, overeating, over-collecting, working very hard for material things. This is something that goes on out there. If you bring it into devotional service, it's pranashyati, you can destroy everything. Prajalpa, nonsense talk, hearing it and speaking it. And niyamagraha, being loose about the everyday routine activities, tatta karma bhavarta, niyamagraha, in other words, not being strict in your sadhana, or going through the motions while being there physically, not really being there at heart, or having some ulterior motive. That's niyamagraha. Janasanga, association with materialists, we've had 100 warnings about that. And being greedy, even if you can't act on it, if you maintain a strong desire for more than is necessary, that will impede. So if we're able to control those or get a handle on those, then there's the positive side. Utsaha nishayadaya tatta karma pavartanat sangha tyaga sato vritte shadvi bhakti prasiddhiti. Enthusiasm. I like to tell this story, some of you have heard it before. When I was I think I was still in Brooklyn, yeah. And I've been there, almost 2 years, and I was responsible for a certain part of the day, helping the bhaktas and encouraging them. So there was one new bhakta who later became a sannyasi and an initiating guru in ISKCON. I won't mention his name because he's no longer with us. But he was standing in the arti. I don't think it was like this. I think it was Mangal arti, but he was just standing. And I encouraged him to dance. And he said, I don't feel like it. I said, well, even if you don't feel like it, you should do it anyway, then you will feel like it. In other words, Krishna will give you, he'll respond, And he would use that. He became one of the main bhakti leaders in the years right after Prabhupada disappeared. He went to England, which was like leading and making devotees at that time and everything. And he would recall that and use that. So that's really what it takes, is that to be enthusiastic. Well, I'm not enthusiastic because that's an internal statement. Yeah, well, then act enthusiastic anyway. Utsahan, and be patient and determined. You can see they all go together, especially determination and patience. Determination means determination over time, being patient and being confident that you'll achieve the end. Enthusiastic, patient, and determined in what regard? Tat tat karma pravartanat. That's all of the different things that we have to do in devotional service. And then again, he emphasizes, when he describes it both positively and negatively. In the first verse, or second verse of the Upadesamrta, what does it say? Janasanga means materialist, association with materialists, asatsanga. So this one says sanga tyagat, giving up bad association. That's a positive. And sato vritti, following in the footsteps of the great devotees. Then he has 3 verses about associating with devotees. The first one is this loving exchanges, giving gifts, receiving prasad, receiving prasad, revealing one's mind, hearing confidentially. Very important. And then how to respect different levels of devotees. If someone chants the name once, Krishna iti, yes, giritang manasadi, in his voice, then one should at least offer respect within one's mind, manasadi. If someone receives initiation, then we should bow down, vanchakalpadurubhischa, recognize that. And if someone is advanced in bhajan and is very attracted to hearing and chanting and is devoid of the tendency to criticize others, free of that blemish or that disqualification, then one should covet his association and serve. And then there's a warning not to judge devotees externally. It especially mentions about disease, but it can be anything, birth, race, all of that bodily conception, you drag that into devotional service, and this can devastate your devotion, your bhakti kripa. So drista svabhava janitaya vapushascha dosha means fault of the body. Anything that you want to, this is mentioned disease. And then he says, just as the Ganges, the wise person will bathe in it, even in the rainy season when there's so many impurities, sometimes even dead bodies are washing by. But it never gets contaminated, so you bathe. Similarly, even though there may be some external flaw in the devotee, or what you see as an external flaw, you should judge by these other criteria. What is their activity? Are they detached? Are they enthusiastic to preach? And are they advanced, showing attraction to Krishna for association? And then comes the last 2 verses that we've just been studying, 7 and 8, which are kind of the essence of the whole thing. So that's what this verse is all about. And anuragi jananugami. The whole idea is to discover, by more and more purity, by that ladder from faith to love that's so famous by Rupa Goswami's, you're uncovering your actual sarup, who you really are. We know we're spirit souls, but we're not just souls, we're not just particles of consciousness, we're all persons in relation to Krishna. And by becoming absorbed in thinking of Krishna, we actually learn who we are. Krishna enlightens us from within about our specific service. And part of the way he does enlighten us is by providing examples of others in that same category of mood. So the way it's supposed to work is that you become absorbed more and more in hearing and chanting and remembering, even when you're doing everything else, the remembrance is going on. And you're hearing Krishna's Leela again and again and again, and becoming attracted to a certain rasa. And someone in that rasa you regard, or someone who's following in that rasa, you associate with them, hear from them, and pick up their mood and get instruction from them. That's what Raga Anuga means. It's meant to, everyone says Raganuga, but it's actually Raga Anuga. It's supposed to culminate in Ragatmika. There's been some confusion about the difference between Raganuga and Ragatmika. Ragatmika is the mood of all the gopis and friends and parents in Vrindavan, in Goloka Vrindavan. Ragatmika bhakti means absolute spontaneous love for Krishna, never having any other desire, constant remembrance, and great love and all these emotions you read about and symptoms. That's Ragatmika. To move toward that means to follow Raganuga. Anuga means follow behind. That's what it literally means, go behind. To come under the shelter of one of Krishna's intimate devotees, or those who are following the intimate devotees, and develop the same characteristics. That's what this is all about. And in the next 3 verses, he describes higher and higher realizations. And finally, the last verse is about residing on the bank of Radhakund, which many devotees have tried. I remember there was a devotee who lived right here. She got cancer. She was this diminutive devotee, I forget her name now. And she decided, okay, it's time to go with my Radhakund. So you can imagine, she had a husband, and he helped her, and they tried it. But, to settle in there and to maintain and sustain and the whole thing, it was impossible. So she moved back here, and there was a book, it's not so well known now, and the first book to have many, many paintings of Krishna Lila. I can show it to you. There's another one that's come out recently, but this one, the first one. And descriptions. I worked on the book, actually, to take descriptions from the book. So she cut out those pictures. They were big, not as big as this picture, but maybe 2/3 that size. Put them all over her walls. And that was, and then she just tried to, hear, and her husband was there chanting, and finally she left her body here. And this was her living in Vrindavan, surrounded place by, And even Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he didn't go to Vrindavan. He stayed in Gita Nagari. And devotees came there and was always hearing and chanting. Left his body. So it's not always possible. One thing I just heard, you probably all heard about this horrific accident that took place in Alachua, with one devotee on a motorcycle, got killed. I don't know if you've heard. He's a long-time devotee, Kaliyapani. He's an old-timer from Britain. He'd lived in Alachua for 20 years. I'd see him there. Very nice devotee, into kirtan. He would take care of the trees. He knew how to prune the trees. And he did that for a long time. Anyway, so he was on the main road in front of the temple there. It's called State Road 235. You can get up to 65 on that road. It's a major state road. And he's riding a motorcycle, which I think was his big mistake, but he was doing it. He liked to go fast. So it's 8:30 at night. A devotee was pulling out of one of the roads in a big truck, a semi-truck, huge 16-wheeler. And he didn't see him, and he just crashed right into it. But the amazing thing I heard from Brajendranandana last night is that it was a devotee's house and land. Did you hear this? And and this devotee would have speakers out there that was playing in his land, not just in his house. So that the whole atmosphere was, as soon as you walk on the land, there's kirtan going. I don't know which kirtan, probably kirtan. So he was going so fast that he went flying, and he landed in the lawn there, in the property, and he died, quickly. It was such a horrific crash. But the kirtan was going over him. He was, instead of having devotees in a room, chanting, somehow he was hearing kirtan even at that time. Oh, yeah? Anyways, there's all kinds of amazing. And Indra Brahman told me, that same, an hour earlier, or half an hour earlier, there was this horrific crash on I-75, just a mile or two away. And there were like 11 fatalities. It was horrific. And the whole I-79 was blocked up. And so Indra was trying to shop, and suddenly he sees all these big semi-trucks on a local road blocking his way. Finally gets onto the road going back home, which is just a mile or two from the temple. And then again, this whole thing is blocked up with another accident. He says, "My God, something in the stars or something." And when do you see two fatal accidents, major fatal accidents on the road just a few miles from each other? Anyway, this is the way things happen sometimes. But Krishna allowed him to hear the holy name at the time of death. Okay, any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
You spoke earlier about absorption.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read in Amrita recently about an incident in Srila Prabhupada, he was in Nava, I'm not 100%. And I don't remember the context exactly, but he had been woken up, I think it was by Kamal Krishna Maharaj, and Kamal Krishna Maharaj asked him about, what was he dreaming?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't remember the context, but it's like, that Prabhupada would vividly recall the dream, and it was purely Krishna conscious, I don't know if it had something to do with building a temple or something, to this effect. So the question is like,
how can we have dreams like that?
24 hours. Yeah, I mean, we were speaking about 24 hours of absorption.
That's what it says here. I'm just reading.
Yeah, I mean, can we really expect to see that where we can not only have dreams and be engaged while we're sleeping, but also recall as if it's like, we're living it even in our sleep?
I've never had that. The closest thing I had is when I had a period in Atlanta when, it was before the internet era, and there wasn't all that much to do, and we were living, a good 15 minutes from the temple. It's not like you go to the temple in the evening. It was quite a drive, But we had a nice house we were renting, and I had my own room, and they gave me a tambura, and I had just gotten the whole Stavamala printed out. This was 78. Kushikara just finished it, and it was like, like a week before I left LA. So I had that printed out. So I was just opening that, and I would chant, and I memorized a lot of the verses that you hear me spouting around when I walk around. I learned at that time. But that was the way, I was absorbed, and then I would memorize like an ashtaka as far as I could. There would still be some holes in it. And then during the night, I would sometimes, think of that. That would be going around in my mind, and wake up, and it would be not completely memorized, but be some progress in the memorization. So that was the whole idea when Prabhupada set up the evening program, and then you read Krishna book and hot milk. And the main thing is what wasn't going on. There were no other influences. It wasn't like, and if you're in the ashram or you're in the temple, and that's what it was in most of the temples. There were no houses you were living in, it was all a temple. That was your influence, and you could sometimes have dreams like that. But really, it's what you do during the whole day and your level of absorption. The fact that and it really depends on getting the taste so that your mind is attracted to remember. And it's a spectrum. It's not like, okay, I had it one day, I don't have it one day, I have it the next. You get more and more taste, so that you chant longer, you don't want to stop, and you're eager to hear the Krishna book and other accounts of Krishna's Leela, which we have in abundance now. So that the whole day is actually absorbed in hearing and chanting and remembering. It's possible to do it. And it's a question of desire. I mean, what do you dream about? You dream about things trying to, fulfill things that you couldn't fulfill, or some big emotional experience, and it affects you. You could have a negative dream. Things come up from a long time ago. Prabhupada explains, is it the beginning here? Yeah, that for hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but of many, many lives of the past. So this is what the art and nivritti is all about. The Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It's a whole thing of the mind. There's a wonderful set of lectures I'm listening to now. There's the real treasure site called the VIHE. I don't know if you ever tapped into it. VIHE, Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education. There's a lot of recordings on there. And one, Burijan Prabhu gives a series of lectures on his japa retreat and the holy name. And it's all about the mind. You know, it's all about controlling the mind. He quotes from the song of the Avanti Brahman, which is all about how he's saying that the mind is really our worst enemy, and that's what you have to, you know, that's your only enemy, you know. But that's the science behind it. But the practice is to really be serious about hearing and chanting and cutting out all the distractions. That's the only way to get that, where you really are so eager to think of Krishna that when you go to sleep, you know, you just really want to remember him. And then, if you're lucky, you'll have a nice dream. It's possible, yeah. Go ahead. All right, then we have to stop. It's very late.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribol, Damodar.
I really like the point that you made, how this is not saying that we should physically reside in Vrindavan, but to reside there by mutually observing.
I'm quoting. Don't believe me. It's elsewhere in the CC and other places where it probably makes that point. But yeah, go ahead.
When I was just returning back from India a couple months ago, the one thing that was very apparent, and I could see, you know, when you were saying, you know, devotees maybe should go to Vrindavan or the holy places. But when I was coming back from India, and I was there in the temple, I was appreciating Srila Prabhupada so much because, you know, Prabhupada says that it broadens one's
Yeah, yeah.
but to see how Srila Prabhupada, he was completely situated aside in Vrindavan, but he made his biggest contribution to humanity worldwide level by bringing Vrindavan to the world. And you can see, like, when devotees have, like, really good sadhana, you don't feel it different. You know, like, I see what Gentleman Prabhu, he's a person admired for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how each temple follows mentioned the other day, how, you know, Srila Prabhupada would establish these different temples, and he would give a certain group that this is new, like, not to break down the work of new Govardhan.
Yeah.
And it has that village built, you know, anyways, with that comment.
Yeah, and he said personally, even in 66th Street, 26th 2nd Avenue, I'm not really in New York. I'm in Vrindavan. He's always remembering. And wherever your consciousness is, that's really where you're at. So, and it's so much greater, you know. And he said specifically, I heard this lecture recently. The greater sadhu is one who is, you know, doesn't just sit in Vrindavan or any other holy place, but actually goes out and tries to help the people. Because the ultimate point is to get the mercy of Krishna, to become as dear as possible to Krishna. And he's certainly dear when you remember his pastimes and everything, but it's even more dear when you give those to others. We really have to stop. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.